All right, so let's first start off by talking about the benefits or potential benefits and potential costs of economic growth or long run growth. So the first benefit is a big one. It's an increase in material living standards. So in terms of economic growth, it can allow people to purchase more goods and services and improve their lives in terms of material, in terms of like tangible things. We often see, and the book kind of argues that this higher incomes can lead for greater demand for environmental protection, for instance, as well as the fact that as incomes tend to go up in countries, they tend to move from the demand for more tangible goods to more services. Like economies tend to move to more service-oriented economies as income goes up or average per capita income goes up. The second benefit is potentially alleviating poverty. Which is also a really important benefit, obviously, right? One of the issues with the second benefit is that what's happened in the last whatever years is that a lot of the economic growth has been concentrated at the top of the income distribution. So lots of the increase in income has been concentrated, I guess I should say, at the top of the income distribution. In the sense that not everyone has been sharing in this economic growth. That people at the top of this income distribution or the wealth distribution have been increasing their incomes or their wealth by a lot, and we've seen that in this pandemic. Whereas people with lower incomes are not getting the benefits of this economic growth. They're not seeing their incomes change by very much. And so if this is true, we're having this rising inequality. So not everyone's sharing in this economic growth, and we have this rising inequality, which could cause some issues. And so we might need some redistribution might be necessary to decrease poverty. But these are the two main kind of benefits of economic growth, and they're huge, right? Increasing living material standards and decreasing poverty. Especially the second one, if this growth is concentrated with certain segments of the population, you might need to have redistributive policies to help everyone share in this economic growth, but this is a huge benefit. Now let's think about the costs of long-run growth. In terms of costs of economic growth or long-run growth, the first is going to be, to achieve this long-run growth, a lot of times we need to increase our investment. And in that sense, we have to sacrifice current consumption. So we have to have a little bit less today and to have more tomorrow. So growth is encouraged by increasing investment. And so to get more investment or increase investment, you need to decrease consumption, right? In the sense that, we can either save or consume our money, and money that's going to savings is then invested into our economy to hopefully reach future economic growth. So it means consumption decreases. Since that's going to cause an increase in savings to get an increase in investment, that means we have to give up some of our consumption. So the second cost of economic growth is going to be the social costs. And so a lot of times when a country's experience, especially rapid economic growth, we see the country change a lot. Certain industries are going to change. This is going to cause real costs. So growth, or causes, or maybe involves a lot of times, is probably a better word for it. Displacement of some firms or industries. And their workers. So I guess the important part. So as countries experience economic growth, a lot of times, their economies are changing. As we kind of discussed before, maybe they're moving away from more tangible goods and more towards services. Or we see some kinds of industries die out while others kind of blossom. And these industries that die out, that involves real cost to the people involved in those industries. There's a lot of displacement of workers, they need to be retrained, and especially if not everyone's sharing in the benefits of long-run growth, there might be a real pushback against this long-run growth because not everyone's sharing and some workers are losing their jobs while others are at the top of the distribution are making lots more money. And so these are the main two costs of economic growth. So in terms of where does economic growth come from, in terms of the sources of economic growth, we can think of kind of four major sources of economic growth. The first is going to be growth in the labor force. So this could come from increasing population. This could be caused by different parts of the population starting to enter the labor force, like we saw with women in the latter part of the 20th century. That's going to be one source of economic growth. The second source is growth in human capital. So remember, human capital is kind of the skills and productivity that we have from, hopefully through education or whatever, or innate ability. And so the growth in skills are going to be associated with growth, with economic growth as well. We could have growth in physical capital, so it should say growth in physical capital. So one's about kind of your brain and your ability and your skills and things like that, where physical capital is more about the machinery. And fourth, we could think of technology changes. So these are kind of considered the four main sources of economic growth. And different theories of economic growth are going to concentrate on different sources of growth, whereas some of them might really concentrate on technological change being the underlying reason for economic growth. Others would concentrate on human capital and physical capital and things like that.